I will start with Madam Kwan, Stephanie. Yes, that is getting. What are some of those things that you've put into practice in your life, which you can call habits, which we know if we build them consistently, they will lead to cultures that will make our strategies to work? There's supposed to be a microphone somewhere. I like this kind of thing. Can you tell these people, say they're looking at us, you mess up now, you're finished. Can you tell them some of those things as a startup entrepreneur, these many things that you do, you've been able to put into practice, right, for you to be a high performer and for your business, of course, or your businesses to be high performing businesses?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The very first practice I have been actually practicing, a habit I've been practicing, is acquiring superior knowledge. Superior knowledge is relevant knowledge. It is not cheap. I would like to start that way. It is not cheap because for you to have superior knowledge, you have to pay for it. So, let me give you an example of superior knowledge. You need to take courses. You can read from a book, or you can go to YouTube and not just watch any kind of video, but you take educative videos on YouTube with respect to your market niche or your business. So you need to acquire knowledge in this our time for your strategies in your business to grow. And when I talk about acquiring superior knowledge, for you to acquire superior knowledge, you cannot just read a book or watch a video and then you just become what you have read or you become who you have seen or watched on video. You need to consistently practice. And as a leader, for you to stay in business or in power as a politician, you need to continue learning. You must learn to stay relevant. Every leader learns. Even with, let me take an example of one of my colleagues that talked during the first panelist or panel. She said she does Euro. For her to keep her Euro fresh for 1 month is knowledge and learning. She does not just sit and then her Euro is fresh for 1 month. So you need to acquire superior knowledge.
Let me just comment about knowledge. I want you now to talk to us. So it's not like she's just telling us, how do you, in line, I've heard it with the ones I say, how do you get knowledge? I want you to write it down so you don't say you came here, went back empty-handed. How in your life have you done so that you have the knowledge you have now?
Okay, I have been taking courses like this one which I'm graduating today.
One, courses.
One, take courses. 2, you should read your book.
Read.
3, for you to learn, you have to watch educative YouTube video. 4, you can learn from experts or your mentors. That's what I was saying for now.
So you will discover that, and this is what I wanted to bring out. Reading doesn't mean you must only pick up a book. And that's when people don't like to read. First of all, it's not about liking to read, it's about having to read. Those are 2 different things. And that is where when you start to control your subconscious mind, it stops being the way you feel to what you have to do. And nobody who has stayed in the comfort zone has ever made it. Only people who have gone out of the comfort zone have made it. So, even if you don't like books, you can watch videos, you can listen to audios, of course, educative videos, you can, I don't know, there are so many ways. Brian Tracy, for example, one of the top guys when it comes to productivity and sales and marketing and many things in the US, believes or has said in many of his books that if in your car you keep on listening to educative audios and you do that for 6 months, it's equal to an MBA. You should clap for that. Because everybody's going to have an MBA here in the next 6 months. However, if you go to the Mini-MBA program, you're going to have that in 3 months. And after panel 1, you can start this. C'est pas le bébé, non? C'est le vrai chose, non? Yes, so if you want to have, it's not just about books, it's about several ways. Is there something else that you can do apart from superior knowledge?
Yes, the very second point or habit I have been practicing is embracing network. I think Daddy can attest to that, and my president of CELBMD, Mr. Joybert, can also attest to that. It's because of my networking, happening to belong to communities like the VIP group and the Peak Performance Academy that I came across this Mini-MBA program. So if you do not belong and network with people, there are opportunities you will never have. There's knowledge. There are even scholarships, jobs that you will not have access to. Jobs that you won't have access to unless you embrace networking, connecting, and creating valuable and credible relationships.
Amazing. So since the microphone is making you to feel like that, let me just reiterate, right? Every action you take to network is a function of a decision. But the decision you make is a function of the inspiration you have had. The inspiration is based on the meditation that you've made. And that meditation is made in isolation. To isolate yourself from the rest of the crowd, it takes a strong decision, it takes discipline, it's a habit. So you discover that every action, even the action to network, is based on the way you think. And the way you think is based on the knowledge you have. You cannot do something which is out of the knowledge you have. And that is why superior knowledge serves as a foundation somehow for you to network properly. Am I correct? Am I correct? You're correct. Okay. Let me leave you for now. Yeah, that's stop curtain. Let me go to the next person who's having curtain. And what I'll try to do is to do some kind of gender balance and then to do it directional balance. So I don't go like this. Let me get my neck to so that I can stretch a bit. Executive George. I know you have the skirting leg, it's okay, calm down. Getting out. Are you going to align with what she has said? Or you have some other things which you think if we put into practice? So she has said two things: superior knowledge and networking. Now the strategy that you put out and the action steps is not going to be the same for everybody in this hall. There are some people here who have more resources than you have to network. So your strategy and your action steps cannot be like their own. You must take out the time to go home, sit in your isolation, and do meditation so you get inspiration, so that in your associations you can do communication that will be conviction that will lead to an action. And that action will lead to transformation. So, I want to believe that Executive Nakentoh George would have some other habits, right, based in your field, health, real estate. What are some of those things that if we practice from now is going to move us 2 times ahead, maybe in the next 1 year?
Okay, thank you so much, Executive. Now, I fully agree with what she said, everything she said. Now, I want to add this. Before I go there, I would like us to understand that we are startups. You are a startup. I love my CEO there who said that is how we are. We are little. We want to get the people come to us. Trust me, you have to persistently do what you are doing. You will fail. Okay, stones will be shot at you by life, by circumstances. Trust me, you have to be on the same thing over and over. Now, I have just one word I can give for my coach here as I met Mr. Javnyuy on the first day, that was 11th of January 2021. And one thing I noticed around him was one thing: consistency. I said, okay, now there is just a word. As a startup, you have to be going, no matter what is happening. You're persistent, you're failing, you're going, the wounds are there, you cry. Please, if you have to cry, use your bed, use your pillow, cry, continue. Just don't give up.
He says that consistency can kill a witch.
Yeah, so actually it can kill a witch. There is this aspect. I asked myself, the advent of electricity, this guy will have to fail 9,999 times. Why?
Let me just come in. I was talking to somebody earlier, and he said he tried this and it didn't work, and so. I told him, no, he didn't fail. He didn't fail. Not that he didn't fail. But fail means failure always improves learning. Or fail means first attempt in learning. Because you've known some things that you are going to do in a different way in the future. So you didn't fail. You will never fail. We only win or learn.
Sure.
Continue.
Sure. So actually, that is the habit you have. Persistence is just your lifestyle. And now the next point I'll add to this is you have to be consistent in searching for superior innovative knowledge. Now, what do I say by this? Look for someone who is top in your field. There is something he knows that you don't know. Ask yourself every day, what does he know that I don't know? Because once you get the knowledge of what he knows, definitely you reach at the point where he is producing the results you want to produce. And by the time you reach there, he has moved on to another dimension which you need to continue to that dimension. That is the life.
So you discover, I'm happy with what has just happened because he used some different words and he coined it, but it goes back to knowledge. Because the strategy you put into place is dependent on the actions you carry out. All the actions you carry out are a function of what's in here.
Sure.
If you don't have the required knowledge, trust me, no matter how beautifully you have arranged that strategy, it's not going to work. So it's what that they are trying to be different, but this is to show you that it works. That's to say, if you're in this hall now, and want to move to the next level in the next 6 months, you have to like knowledge in one way or the other. That's to say, there are principles in life, and there are facts. The fact that Russia is having something in Ukraine is a fact because it could change in no time. The fact that Larissa and this Sonia are quarreling, it could change. Don't ask me who Larissa is. But one thing is certain, there are principles in life, and habits are like principles because to change them is not easy. If you don't follow the principle of knowledge, the actions you carry out will never give the kind of result you want. So if after today, based on what these two experts have put to us as startup entrepreneurs, you want to move to the next level, and that is what, if there's one thing that you have to do in the Mini-MBA program, is that you must read those articles. You must study those articles, and you must have a business war, during which, if you've not mastered the content, you're going to expose yourself, and you mean that I usually laugh, because you don't have to laugh at me too, I'm not usually there. That's because Doctor and his team knows that without knowledge, you will always carry out the wrong actions. And how can you carry out the wrong actions and expect different results? That's what he will say that is superior witchcraft. That you are doing something wrong and expecting a good result. So I'm happy that he came back there, even though they call it persistent superior knowledge or innovative knowledge. It still goes back there. The only difference is that you don't just get the knowledge, but it should be innovative. And if I have to give a little bit of an idea about mind mastery, because I do mind mastery, you see, the memory, the perception, and the reasoning are the lower parts of the brain. When you move to the other side of the brain, you start talking of intuition. And that's where you can look at something and be innovative. So when you are going to this school, I'm not talking about CELBMD Mini-MBA program, where that one is different. There is practical and we learn good things. When you go to school, which is not education, and there you only go and memorize and regurgitate, you might never be innovative. And that is why you must go for superior knowledge, not just average knowledge, in order to move to the next level. Are we getting some vibe?
Yeah.
I'd like to know getting some vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, you is manipulating as well. I hope you are getting a good knowledge.
I'd like to add something to that.
Okay, executive.
Now, actually, we're talking about habits here. Habits. Now, the main word I call habits is things embedded in your subconscious. Everything embedded in your subconscious. So you live the life you're living today because you are here because this seminar, this program, this summit was in your subconscious. And your body couldn't withstand you not being here. Now, those are habits. Every day you live them. You watch them, you move them. Let's make it practical here. Let's make it practical. Now, what you watch, you control it. Is it in alignment to where you are going to? The people you listen to, your 5 friends, what do you communicate always? I'm practicalizing the innovative knowledge here. If you want to continuously grow, when you meet with people who are discussing about ideas which make you decay, do you remain or do you leave the environment? So you change. You want to innovate, right? You want to change, right? You want to move things, right? You want to be persistent, right? Change the habit. Move to another dimension. And take note, cultivate the habits you want to use 10 years from now, from today.
Amazing. Because once you have a habit, clap first. Because once you have a habit, it doesn't change anyhow. And not to, sorry, but let me just say this. If you study the words of Gary Roberts, you discover that he calls the conscious mind the captain. But the conscious mind controls only 10 to 12% of what you do. Consciously, that's, you don't say, let me nod my head, you just nod. You don't say, you don't order those moves. However, the subconscious mind, as I mentioned earlier, controls its 8 to 90%. So what you do is that in your conscious mind, you do things that build habits that inform the subconscious mind, to inform the superconscious mind, to go out and bring the kind of things you want to see as a result. So there is a conscious mind, yes, but now there is a superconscious mind, which is the crew. And take note, everything that you, the captain of the conscious mind, says to the crew, which is the subconscious mind, he accepts and says yes. So if you say, I want to have a bad day, he says, okay, the boss has said he wants to have a bad day, she wants to have a bad day, let's bring it on to the boss. If you say this, my things are always like this, you say, oh really? Ah, wow, the boss wants to have superconscious mind. Bring it to her or bring it to him. So trust me, you don't want to joke with habit. So she says superior knowledge and networking, and he says be persistent, which means keep doing. Those of you who are feeling sleepy, please keep staying up. Don't sleep. And he also says that don't just go for superior knowledge, but go for superior innovative. You're operating with intuition knowledge. Amen? Amen. It's a ministry movie. Even if you don't answer, I'm hearing the stones. Let me come to you now, my executive. You see with them. We are talking habits, so it's difficult for me to say other things. And therefore, what are the things that you in your life you have been doing over these years with gender natural blend? Are you just doing the same things? Or are you doing the same things in a different way? Or are you doing different things moving forward?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. All right. Good afternoon once more to everyone. The first thing I would love to say is that as a business person, the first thing that you need to differentiate is you need to differentiate between being self-employed and being an entrepreneur. These are two different things that many people mistake for each other. And as an entrepreneur, you need to master 5 things. Those are the key 5 blocks of an entrepreneurship journey that you need to practice it every day on a daily basis. And let me first of all start with my business. When I started my business, it has been a very long journey. And the first thing that you need to have is you need to have a vision for your business. I remember after my master's degree when I had my business, because I have a master's degree in English Modern Letters. So after my master's degree, I started this business. I remember one guy told me, it was like, you have the knowledge, you can teach very well. So why do you go on doing business, just producing juice? It can never take you anywhere. And I was like, my dear, you don't know the vision I have for this business. It's more than what you think. You have limits, but I don't have limits. This can take me far. And since I started, it's about 5 months ago, and I can say that I've gone really far with it. Like last month, I remember on the 14th, I started my business. Was not like I went through any training. I can testify that it was because I was looking for knowledge. I learned this through YouTube, and after that, I am far now. I can say that I'm actually far because last month I attended a seminar, the Weather Summit. It's for women entrepreneurship on the 14th of February. And when I reached there, I made that is connection. I used to produce my juice and it could last maybe 2 weeks because I produce it, I put it in plastic bottles, and it stays 2 weeks in the freezer. When I reached there, while connecting with others, I realized that if I could produce my juice and put it in bottles, it could still stay out of the freezer and can stay like 6 to 1 year, 6 months to 1 year.
Wow.
So that was it.
Let me just come in. Are you seeing some similarity between something someone said in the first panel and this one? But do you know that that's all superior innovative knowledge? Like I said, that strategy came from superior innovative knowledge. It's a habit that she has built. Because if you have the wrong habit, she wouldn't have been at that summit. Trust me, the person who became the founder can never be the same person who becomes the CEO. You must start doing things differently. But those things are actions that you carry out. And those actions are from habits that you've built. Sorry for interrupting.
Thank you.
There's a vision. What's the next?
All right, so that is why I was saying that you need to start from being self-employed to being an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur, you need to practice these 5 things. The first thing is human capital. You need to understand your human capital. That is your relationship with people, your relationship with investors, your relationship with the people that work around you, your employees and everyone around you. You need to create a good relationship with them. And the next one is social capital, which is different from human capital. Your social capital is building trust. If your customers don't trust you, they'll never buy from you. If people don't trust you, they'll never invest in you. We cry every day of not having capital to expand our business, but it is because we don't build our trust. So you need to build your trust before you can do anything. And then the next point is going back to what Executive Dango just said, intellectual capital. You need to build your intellectual capital, going in for knowledge, learning every day. All these things you need to practice on a daily basis. And then now, the next one is you need to build your social media capital. Your presence in the social media values a lot. There are people here, I know that there are some people, they are like, Facebook is very childish, I cannot be on Facebook. It depends on how you use it. There are childish people on Facebook, but it depends on how you exploit that Facebook. I've had so many people who have contacted me because of Facebook. I have a journalist who contacted me on CRTV because she saw my products on Facebook and she was like, I love what you are doing. But there are many of us business people, when you go to LinkedIn, you cannot find them. You go to Facebook, you cannot find them. How do you expect investors to meet you when you are not on the social media?
Let me just come in. Can you see that she is saying that on the social media you have particular kinds of habits?
Yes.
Because it's the habits you have on social media that determines the actions you carry out on social media. And that influences whether you're going to get a journalist, as you said, who came to meet you. Please write on.
All right, okay. And the next capital, the last capital that we talk about is the financial capital. Many of us consider the financial capital to be at the top, but it is not at the top. It is not at the top. Don't procrastinate things because you don't have the capital. When you have an idea, start it, an investor will see you and will invest in you. And even if an investor does not invest in you, you grow. You grew from somewhere, from nothing to something. And I can remember that when I started my business, I did not even have a refrigerator to store my juice. I was producing immediately and supplying immediately to those who have refrigerators in their houses. And after 1 month, I got a proposal for a marketing partnership with a music label. And it was great because I started. I did not procrastinate my business because I did not have the capital. And when I started, many people were amazed by it. And I think that I am still growing. I'm still learning every day. And it is because I dream to be a great entrepreneur. It is because I don't find myself being just self-employed, but I dream of being an entrepreneur. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. But remember, she found a way to go back to mention knowledge. Because the ability to balance these different kinds of capitals, which you mentioned, because again, it's true that we keep thinking that it's only the financial part. But you can see that the other ones even matter more. Because nobody will give you his or her money if the person doesn't trust you. And if there's something that I'm certain we talked about in the Mini-MBA program at least 5 times, is the fact that you must earn their trust. You must earn their trust. If you look at the management levels, of energy levels in management, the baseline, which should be the biggest, should be emotional energy. Because going for action, you must pass emotional energy, spirit energy, intellectual energy before action. That's physical energy. The problem with most of us is that we keep asking for physical energy when we have not earned the trust. And even if we get the action, it will not be sustainable. And you see why the moderator of the previous panel said most businesses fail within the first 3 years before moving to the 4th year, because they got results quickly, but it was not sustainable because the emotional energy was not good. I have the same point there. Even if we're not, you can say no, you could have known me. Executive Joybert, Nigeria. He's an IT expert. And so don't be surprised if he uses some terms. But amazingly, it's very, very simple in the terms he uses. I just thank God, because if not, the guy would have dared to be this morning when we started discussing. But let me just run quickly to you. As someone who has founded several companies, what are the things you recommend for us that if we put into practice, without mincing words? Remember, the objective of this is for you to take down things that you start doing now. If you don't like to network, you discover that networking is not about whether you like it or not. It's about what you need to do about your network. You leave this place without networking, it's your cup of coffee. That mommy in the village, why does she even buy coffee in his cocoa? You must know your market, you must know your other things. What are some of the points that you think we could put into play?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and good day to everybody.
Good day.
I am actually the founder of CM. eFarm.cm is an agricultural platform that we sell products, and we put it out there for farmers to put out their products and buyers around the world to buy. So my first habit that has kept up going is we've set KPIs. And what are KPIs? These are key performance indicators. These are your yardsticks that you use to measure your business, if they're actually going, is it progressing or is the business regressing? So I remember when the only thing we could measure was, are we making profit or not? And it got to a point that we say, no, this is an e-commerce site. We need to start measuring to know our daily. So we set those KPIs. How many visitors do we have? And we realized we got to a point that it was not working. So what do? We went back to what the panel one was talking about. We look at the strategy. What are we doing that was not right? So as a businessman, as a startup, you need to set your KPIs. And these are the only things that will actually help you to measure where you're actually going, if you're actually succeeding or not.
Let me just come in there. So about that, remember, to set those KPIs, you not set them in a nightclub. You have to build a habit of taking quiet time to reflect. I'm just trying to bring in how habit works. Taking that strategy and making any use of the strategy is dependent on your ability to take the time to isolate yourself and do those thoughts. Isolate with your team. It must not be you as an individual. Right on, please. What's the next thing that you think would do, or that you've been doing rather, that helps to make you a high performer?
Secondly, you have to create an ideal version of yourself. How do you do that? You need to have an ideal version of yourself or the ideal version of the business that you are doing. So you create your ideal list. What are the things that you want to attain? Going back to the startup IFA, we've targeted 500,000 users. If you try to look that on your normal conception, you realize that it's impossible. But where are we now? We are at 6,000. So the only way you can do that, you keep looking, where are you going to? 500,000, but you are at 6,000 now. So set this ideal you, set the ideal of the company, and it will drive you and your team to that target. You will be surprised. You will be surprised that dreams are scaring some people. And if your dream doesn't scare you, then they are not enough.
Your dream has to scare you, right?
Definitely.
I read this book and the person said your dream must be so big that it's bound to fail if God is not in it.
Definitely.
Your dream must be so big that it's bound to fail if God is not in it. So, about the ideal, I just want to say this. There's a course critique about entrepreneurial leadership in the MBA program. I discovered that it is still a function of you being capable of throwing a vision. And throwing a vision takes discipline. You cannot see what you don't take the time to try to see. You can only see what you take the time to try to see. And that is why in that course, they showed us that an entrepreneurial leader is different from an ordinary leader. An entrepreneur who doesn't have those leadership skills is different from an entrepreneurial leader. So it's a combination of both in order to have that idea you for yourself and for the business. But moving on, so we are drawing towards the end of the conversation. I want us to do this, maybe before we get one or two questions. What is the one thing that you are recommending briefly for these people to take down? We've gotten about 7 elements, from superior knowledge to persistent innovative knowledge to networking to work with the 5 capitals and blending them correctly. We've talked about, if I'm not mistaken, you talked about persistence. It means you must keep on moving. And you have talked about the ideal you, and you have talked about key performance indicators, because if you don't evaluate, how do you progress? Evaluation is a function of progress, or progress rather is a function of evaluation. Having all of that, what is the one thing that if somebody is leaving this hall and wants to put them into practice now, you are going to recommend? Is it rascals before ladies or ladies before gentlemen? Ladies before gentlemen. Okay, ladies before gentlemen. What's the one thing that you recommend for us to take home to put into practice now?
Alright, okay. I would like to recommend that each and everyone, whether you are an entrepreneur or not, anything that you do in life, you should be optimistic about it. Think big about everything you do. Don't be discouraged. No matter the number of times that you fall, you should always be optimistic. You always dream big about it.
Okay, so to Dango George. Maybe before that, I was talking to somebody earlier, something practical. Mr. Chorimsky, he will be here soon. He told me not to say it, but I'll say it. And I asked him for a number, and he could not give me the number offhand. And he tried, and he just, okay, give me the phone. And he typed the number very quickly. Do you know why? Because he has put it into practice. I want you to keep that at the back of your mind, because we're coming as we move towards the end. Over to you, Dango George.
Okay, one thing you should go back with is that no matter how much and how far and no matter how life throws stones in the entrepreneurial world, keep going, be persistent at it. Remember, see the vision. It's 10, 20 years ahead, probably it's 500 years ahead, but keep going because you're going to fail. And remember, our moderator said you'll fail and learn, right? Yes, so be persistent at it. Thank you.
But to be persistent, you have to learn to be optimistic. Pessimistic people are not persistent, right? Actually, the difference between a fixed mindset person and a growth mindset person is the fact that a growth mindset person sees failure as an opportunity to learn, while the fixed mindset person sees failure as a definition of his or her character or his or her life. And so that's the difference. That's why you need to be optimistic, because it's optimism that permits you to keep moving forward. My lady, what is your recommendation for us?
Okay, my recommendation to everybody is that if you do not belong to any community or any group, you should belong to one. You should try to connect with people, create valuable and credible relationships, because it is only through networking and connecting that you'll be able to learn, you'll be able to have good and employable skills, and you'll be able to solve problems you have been struggling to solve. Because when you live with some experts, you discover that you start liking to read. I never really loved reading. And I think the last time I wore this kind of, dress, I call it a dress, but in 2012, and I think it's just because of the fact that I had to embrace networking and belong to communities. Like I keep repeating them. I have the Peak Performance Academy, and I also have the 1000 VIP winners. Belong to a community, and you will see a lot of change. Even some financial, bad habits or wrong habits that you have, you change them. They will not give you money to start up your business and you can buy a car for me because you will have a car. No. You actually know how to use the money rightly. I think let me just end here. Time enough.
What will you gain if you're not in a PPA academy? What will you gain if you're not in a Mini-MBA program on that Joseph? You will leave this hall without joining those communities. Don't say whatever told you that as you keep not joining communities, that's how your life and all your children will keep not joining communities. God forbid.
All right, I will conclude with I think what has kept me going is purpose. In life, you must have purpose. What is that one thing that you should do that you will be remembered with? I think we are all here because Dr. Joybert had a purpose, and we are living that purpose. Thank you very much.
Please put your hands together for this amazing people. So be optimistic. So persistently keep building good networks, right? Through the discipline that you get by being a purpose-driven person. Amen? So be optimistic, number one. But because of the optimism, the persistence, because you are persistent, your networks will not fail. Because your network is determining your network. And of course, what makes you to have a discipline to do that is your purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, mind you, make sure everything we've done here is not only about excitement and empty motivation. All of what we've done here, if you noticed, and with your permission, I would say it's founded on two things. You must ensure that you go for superior knowledge. As we finish this panel conversation, make sure you start doing something to get superior knowledge. Number two, everything we've said, whether strategy or action plan, it doesn't make any sense if you don't put it into practice. Chorimsky, Mr. Chorimsky, Executive Chorimsky, could type that number because his hand has been doing that all the time. It's now a reflex action. It's now a habit. But when I asked him, he could not, but because he had been practicing, he could do it more easily. So there are two things. Number one, 2. Number 1? And number 2? Ladies and gentlemen, whether personal or corporate, culture, that's a combination of habits, will always eat strategy for breakfast. Thank you very, very much. I will take just 2 questions from the audience on this part of the events. Please don't tell us all the bad teachers now you understood everything. Just raise your hand and then she comes to you. There is somebody. Okay. So maybe you take this other person in front after that. You want to direct into a particular person so that it's clear, or except you want to direct it into
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Javnyuy. I'm directing this question to Mr. Aya. You spoke about some of the peak performance habits like consistency and persistence. And I want to just look at it from normal character. All are human beings, we have breakdowns, even as entrepreneurs. So my question is, how do we build resilience as entrepreneurs in terms of habits? How do we build that resilience? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't expect the question as such. But that's why, like you see, this book, for example, is how I did become who I am today. So it's not in the air. And why so? Because I was able to develop certain habits, right? Because if you want to be resilient, you want to be someone who doesn't fall off easily, you must be in the right environment, like the Mini-MBA program, for example. Because through the Mini-MBA program, we got to understand, for example, that decision making is not an issue of liking stuff, it's an issue of having to do stuff. So number 1, you ultimately have to build the right kind of environment. And how do you build the right kind of environment? Now, I'm not talking about the physical environment. I'm talking about things like getting superior knowledge, getting persistent innovative knowledge, because it helps to build a mental environment that helps to instruct the subconscious mind. Now, having downs is an issue of subconscious, because the truth is that there's nobody here wants to be down. Is that possible? For somebody to want to feel bad? It is a subconscious thing, right? So how do you control that subconscious part? A conscious mind must be in the right environment. How do you build that right environment? You must have the right thoughts. How do you get your thoughts? Your thoughts must be a function only of the knowledge that you have. So go for knowledge, have the right environment. I'll go discuss the other things after this, so we don't take a lot of time. Can we get the final question? Okay, you want to add something very briefly?
Okay, for you to be resilient, I think you need to be disciplined and not work or function from the aspect of motivation. If you work or you do things because you're motivated, you will feel something will come in front of you like unexpected or unplanned for. Something can happen and you will not know what to do. For instance, it will happen to present, let's say if we're using PowerPoint and it happens that current or email takes current up. What will I do? I need to continue and deliver what I had to deliver. And that can only come from the point of discipline, because when you are disciplined, you will always be ready. Even if they wake you up at what time, you will deliver.
Okay, thank you very much. We are out of time, but there was another question. We'll just take it so that we don't keep the person hanging.
Thank you very much for the privilege. It's not a question really, it's just a contribution to what has been said so far. I think climbing the ladder of success, there's one fundamental principle, which is humility. Humility is something that you cannot do without as an entrepreneur. Secondly, you have to have an emotional balance of I would say, tame your emotions, because I'll use a practical example. I know of a woman, she had triplets in a hospital. The doctors get so excited because they've never had that kind of situation, and they cut her big intestine. So when you're succeeding, be aware. Just balance your emotions. Don't be too overexcited. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That was panel 2 for you. My name is Aya W. Abine, and it was a pleasure moderating. Thank you very much, experts. See you later on during networking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, panel team.